Let's start with a simple definition. Universal Basic Income, or UBI, is essentially a government program in which the government supplies a fixed amount of money to every citizen with the aim of ensuring that all basic needs are met. This may seem like a fairly radical program, but I think it will be necessary with the increasing capabilities of both AI and robotics. I believe a large portion of the population will end up being displaced from their jobs sooner rather than later. Sam Altman has stated that he believes that artificial general intelligence, or AGI, will be achieved in 2025. Elon Musk thinks that it will be created by 2025 or 2026, and Dario Amodei believes that it will be achieved in 2026 or 2027 at the latest. These are the leaders of the three leading AI large language models, ChatGPT, Grok AI, and Claude, respectively. So, what is AGI, and what does it have to do with a video about UBI? AGI is a fairly heavily debated topic that has had kind of moving goalposts, if you will. Originally, AGI was defined as computers that would pass the Turing test, which states that it would be impossible to discern whether you were talking to a person or a computer if you were to have a conversation with them. I am fairly certain everyone would agree that we have blown past this indicator, and in fact, the only way to tell the difference between talking to an AI or a human is that an AI responds significantly faster than any human is able to. Just try asking an AI to write a blog. Do you think that you could write one this quickly? Today, AGI is generally agreed upon as an AI that has enough intelligence to surpass the most intelligent humans on Earth. Another popular definition would be when AI achieves sentience. However, this seems to be losing favor, most likely because it's very hard to discern if or when an AI is truly sentient, as multiple LLMs and even some testers have been claiming that this has happened for years now. I cannot begin to express how much of a foundational change this event will have on every field. Imagine an army of the smartest people working around the clock to improve every facet of our society. It's not a stretch to say that hundreds or thousands of years of innovation could be achieved in a matter of years. Because of this disruption, it will be imperative to provide government assistance to cover at the very least the average cost of living, as most jobs are slashed and replaced by AI. With all of this foundation set, we'll dive into the reason I originally wanted to create this video, and that is a fundamental disagreement I have with Joe Rogan about UBI. So let's play the clip, and I'll get into where I disagree with him.
This is my fear with universal basic income, which I think is inevitable.
Yeah,
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way we're going to be able to keep people alive. And
100%.
my fear is that we're going to have too much control over those people if we do that, and those people will have no purpose, and we'll have an even more disenfranchised population than we have today. And the haves and the have-nots will be even further and further apart.
So I think this part is a bit off. It will require a huge shift in how things are done now. Imagine the entire workforce is replaced by AGI and robots. Literally everything is done by robots. The entire return from the output would then have to be taken in by the government and redistributed evenly to the population. In this state, there is no divide because everyone is essentially receiving the same amount of income, and the only discrepancy will be how each person chooses to spend it.
change, and most of these jobs are going to be useless. You're going to have to find something that you love that resonates with people.
Yeah.
And if you do that, people are going to be willing to exchange that for money.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. If you can make like
Ceramics.
this table, a guy named Drew made this table. I know the man who made it. He is a carpenter. He made a table out of wood. We gave him the specifications. I told him I like oak. You're like, this is a handmade thing. And a handmade thing is always, to me, is going to be very valuable.
Yeah.
I love a handmade knife.
Yes.
You know, I love things that someone worked on.
Yeah.
I love a painting, like a painting that someone, like my friend Taylor made this. He painted it.
Yeah.
He sat down in his
awesome.
studio.
Yeah.
He
Art.
painted it. And I love that. That's always going to be valuable.
Yeah.
The problem is, most people have never been encouraged to pursue their interest. They've been encouraged to get a job and get a safe job. And they probably don't even know what their interests are or how those interests could translate.
Or they've been stifled. Yeah.
Right, they've been stifled.
So on this, I generally agree with the direction in his statement. However, his framing is a little bit off again. There will need to be a complete recreation of the educational system. However, it won't be to find a job that you love to do, but instead teaching people of all ages how to find fulfillment in life. And I say people of all ages because from my observation, almost nobody is capable of doing this now. I think Joe puts more value into handmade things than the average person. If people have a choice between a table made by robots that costs $100 or a human-made table for $500, people will take the robot table 100% of the time. Especially in a world where the robot table is probably of a higher quality and you're living on a fixed income from the government. There's also a world where everything is literally free, in which case, why would you pay anyone for anything they created? If someone wants to create things like tables in this example because they love it and that is what provides them purpose, that's great. But his take that is how people are going to make money is not following through with the thought exercise to the fullest conclusion, because money and physical goods are useless at that point. Instead, I think schools will have to be centers to allow people to try different pursuits and see which one resonates with them, which they could do repeatedly to find enjoyment. Using myself as an example, I could run, hike, kayak, play video games, hang out with friends, and create YouTube videos to share ideas and concepts with people every single day and not get bored. I wouldn't need to make money doing any of these things. They would just all be for my own fulfillment, doing what I love, allowing me both physical and mental pursuits that I enjoy and I don't get tired of.
You're exactly right. So actually, when I was spending a lot of time in Silicon Valley, there was a lot of this talk, and they're talking about universal, living wage or basic wage. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? You're going to give everyone $100,000?
Right.
And they're like, well, the synthesis of AI is all human endeavor done by machines. I'm like, wow, come on. So I was kind of the skeptic, This is 10 years ago, and now all of this shit has come true. They were already thinking about this back then because they're also saying exactly what you said, which is, let's say quantum computing happens and AI at the same time, which is probably 3 years away. One quantum computer has enough computing power than all the existing computers in the world today, right? And then you add AI to that. So there's a whole new fucking tech revolution where it becomes even more rich people who own shit and even more. Right. So they're like, unless you take care of those people, they're going to come, because we're the nerds, they're going to come with the hammers, and the currency is going to be bullets. It's not going to be chips. And so it's Planet of the Apes. You got fucking, people on one side here and the big brains on the other side. And you're like, oh, they already knew this. They were already thinking this because they're like, we're going to buy them off. But people are going to go crazy if you buy them off.
So on this, I think this is actually a really great framing of the problem and the situation that we're going to occur in. Again, if my framing of it didn't really make a lot of sense in the beginning, this is perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. So feel free to listen to that again if it's a little bit confusing to you?
It's not necessarily buy them off; it's keep them alive.
Yeah, keep them alive. Okay.
Because people are not going to have any fucking money.
And buy them off because they're afraid that they're going to come take their
I don't
shit.
think we should look at it that way. I think there's got to be a concerted effort to educate people about the possibilities of their life on Earth. That they've been indoctrinated to think that they have to be a worker. How many of these people are out there that are doing masonry work really want to be a painter? How many of those people that really wanted to be in a band? How many of these people? There's something probably that most people want to do.
Yeah.
One thing the universal basic income will do is if you give everybody $100,000 a year, whatever it is, you're going to satisfy they're not going to worry about rent. They're not going to worry about food.
Yeah.
So now maybe they can
creative.
pursue. The problem is people get fucking lazy when you give them free money. It's just
Maybe.
a fact.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
It's not everybody.
Yeah.
But a lot of people.
Yeah.
They just exist and they'll just play video games all day. And
Again, his framing is a bit off where he was just listing other professions. I don't think professions will be necessary, but I've already covered that. The next point that I take issue with here, though, is that if you're going to give people money, they become lazy. A little more context on this talking point. He doesn't mention it in this specific conversation. However, he usually tells a story about a friend of his that I believe runs a restaurant or something. And during COVID, when people were getting larger checks, when they were laid off, afterwards, when restaurants were allowed to open, those people refused to come back to work. And I think his argument is extremely flawed because who would really want to go back to a mediocre job like that in the first place? If they're getting paid just as much or more money to stay at home, do you know anyone that absolutely loves being a server? Would you love to be yelled at by some Karen because the chef forgot to leave onions out of her burrito? His opinion on laziness is rooted on people not wanting to come back to a garbage job. Then he makes a dig at video games, which I think is a little bit off. Not just because I listed it as something that I love doing, but I think that a lot of video games, and there's research done to back this up, actually provide significant amounts of mental stimulation, which could check the box for a mental pursuit I mentioned earlier. A much bigger concern is people who veg out and watch garbage reality television. What positives does that actually provide?
Look, if we're going to deal with a society where everything is run by AI and automated, that you're going to have to give people money because the extraordinary wealth that's going to be generated by AI is going to make that not that difficult to do, especially when you consider how much money we give to other countries already.
100%.
Right? Over the last couple of years, we've given how many $1 billion to Ukraine? I think it's up to 200 billion now.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
That amount of money, when you're dealing with AI, when you're dealing with automation, just to keep people fed and housed, like that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have to figure out a way to give people purpose.
Yes.
And that's going to have to be a revamping of the education system.
That's exactly right. It's a revamping of the education system because you're saying, well, all of these, we were, and this is another great thing on Gen X, but we were built to be workers. You're supposed to get universal education is supposed to just be enough so you can be a good worker and a good taxpayer, and you get a job, and then by the way you get out of college and you already have debt, then you buy a consumer durable, you buy a fucking car, you buy a washing machine, and that's we'll give everybody that, but we give you debt, and then you buy a house, and then you're in debt, and then you finally get out of debt, and then you die.
Right.
And so you just work, and by the way, you're exactly right. You had to get a job. J-O-B, not F-U-N. It's just you go and you do it, and you give you money, and then,
and you become an adult.
That's it.
Yeah, and then.
But that's not true because all of this human endeavor is now going to be done by machines. And you're like, okay, now what do you got? And I agree 100%. It's going to be something that we can't even fathom, which is what do you really like to do?
Right.
What do you love doing? By the way, building a table is worth more than fucking being a corporate executive.
Well, it is if you enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you have a business that you actually enjoy doing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what we have to teach.
Yeah.
Rather than...
We have to...
So again, they're almost there, but not quite. It is a thin line, but again, framing as a profession is essentially useless. What I think will need to happen is that everyone will need to find pursuits, which they do mention there, that they could do on a regular basis that they truly love. Personally, I think it will probably need to be a physical and a mental pursuit, but maybe not everyone will require both. There could even be recreational leagues set up in neighborhoods or cities to allow a competitive outlet for those that want to feel like they need some sort of comparative measurement for their progression. Kind of like marathons do now, if you think about how that works, where you pick something and you have a goal to work toward, and then you can compare how you did versus everyone else or versus yourself. So that those who need something like that constantly have something that they're able to strive towards. Either way, I think this is something that is coming and it will be absolutely necessary to figure out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, as I love to hear what others think about topics like this. I know it's a large shift in mindset to even think about a world ruled by AGI. However, it may be upon us sooner than I think you might think. Thanks again for listening, and I'll look forward to talking to you in the next.